Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal podcast with Cyril Gerald-Quinn on this 18th of March 2021. This, of course, is episode 767 of the Real Deal podcast, Snowfall Season 4, Episode 5, The Get Back. This episode, again, was a very powerful episode in terms of the ideal of family. The themes, and really there's only one theme that really stood out to me, and that was dysfunctional family. And we saw this run throughout the course of the episode with a number of our favorite characters and a number of characters through the course in this show. And we saw, you saw a lot of dysfunction, and to be honest with you, you saw a lot of love as well. So really a mixed bag in terms of what the families dealt with over the course of this episode. We're going to get immediately right into best scenes. So Leon's mom turns him away. Of course, Leon at this point is on the run. He and Fatback have ditched the car. They blow up the car. He gives Fatback some money to kind of, tells him basically, to stay away from him while he, figures out his next move. So he goes to his mom's house, and he's hoping. He asks his mom for a shovel. Now, his mother hasn't seen him in, seemingly months, as Leon has been doing his thing in the projects with holding down that part of town. So Leon has a bunch of brothers and sisters, as we all know from season 1, when he got shot, and we saw him, we saw him laid up in the house with his brothers and sisters. So he has a bunch of siblings, and he asked his mom for the shovel. Apparently, there was $20,000 that Leon had buried away in the backyard. She lets him know immediately that money's gone. Medical bills for the kids. One of the sisters got bit by a dog. One of her daughters had, I think it was in dialysis or something like that. We had medical bills. So she says to him that the money is gone. And, again, $20,000 is even, I know it's in the 80s, and $20,000, that's a lot of money to spend, to be honest with you. But I don't think she was lying. But, of course, he, is in shock. And she basically gives him a couple of dollars, and seemingly, maybe she gave him $40, $50 and gave him a house coat. And not only does she tell him that the money's gone, she tells him that he can't stay there. So he has no money, and he's homeless. So think about it. Leon goes from basically the kingpin of the projects to now being homeless with no money. And she puts the house coat on top of him or, around him, and he goes about his business. Again, this was a recurrent theme in regards to family. You see, I'm not even call this part, this scene, a form of dysfunction. Is just a mother choosing to take care of her other kids, knowing what Leon was all about in terms of being in the drug game. And listen, you can't blame his mom in the least bit. She has 4 or 5 other kids to take care of. He's out doing this thing in the streets. And the money went to where, it went to the other kids, basically. So Leon, at that point, has nowhere to go. He goes about his business and leaves the house. So we go to Jerome, Franklin, and Louis discussing Leon, and basically, Franklin is sitting in a chair, just contemplating what the next move should be. Louis, to no surprise, says that Leon did this to himself, and we should cut loose of him and give him up. They know that if they don't give up Leon, then they're going to be in a war with both Manboy and Scully. And I like it. I love Jerome in this scene because Jerome wants to. Jerome states the obvious without stating the obvious. So Jerome says we got two choices. We could either go to war and protect him, or give him up and avoid a war. So it's clear to me that it's clear that Jerome wants to give him up, but he just, I mean, but he kind of, I guess, gives Franklin Saint something else to think about. But so Jerome, poses those two choices as Franklin contemplates, um, you know, the next move. Again, you saw them discuss. You saw them on basically three separate pages. Louis wants Leon out, and Louis wants to be done with it. Louis and Leon, of course, we know did not get along, and she says, "Hey, he's not." Basically saying that he's not worth a war. So Franklin, we will see what Franklin. We will see what Franklin does. Um, we go to Franklin and Jerome. So Franklin ends up protecting Leon. He stashes Leon away in a house, in an apartment, in one of the empty apartments that he and his mother own. Tells him not to go anywhere. Tells him not to go anywhere, and gives him a piece, a gun. After Leon asks for the gun for protection. Um, Again, empty house, empty apartment, and tells Leon, I will be back. I will be back with food. You can just lay low, which we know Leon has a lot of trouble doing, but at this point, he basically has no choice. He has two kingpins who are both after his head. We go to Manboy and Khadija at the hospital. So they're all at the hospital. Manboy and Khadija. Scully has yet to arrive. Manboy is trying to get information out of Khadija in terms of who killed his niece. We see the dysfunction in this relationship. The brother and sister, Manboy and Khadija, they clearly don't get along. She warns Manboy that he better leave before Scully comes up and kills him. Remember, Scully and Manboy are at war. Scully, they tried to kill each other a couple episodes ago, and they've been trying to kill each other for the better part of the season. So that is still a real thing. That is going on despite this tragedy. Despite the tragedy with the niece, the 5-year-old niece being shot, you see Khadija, uh, you know, put basically a blood-soaked shirt, um, and all indications what are that Khadija end up telling Manboy that it was Leon that killed that killed her daughter. But again, the important part of this scene is you see the separation in regards to Manboy and Khadija. Um, it's apparent to me that Manboy is a little bit older than Khadija, maybe by like 2 or 3 years, maybe by a couple years. And so we see the beginning of that. This will not be the last of the scenes that they have. Um, we see Jerome and we see Sissy. Sissy comes to visit Leon at the apartment. Of course, she has the key. It's along with Franklin. It's her apartment, and Leon. And I didn't mention this on the last episode, but if it is it me or did Leon's afro has been growing by the episode? It's like Leon has like a 70s Angela Davis type afro at this point. So Sissy comes over and braids Leon's hair, but even more than that, it was a scene of motherly affection. It was a scene of love it's a very powerful scene. Leon breaks down multiple times. You know, he is clearly, and we'll talk about it even further along when we get to other scenes. He's clearly been affected and is clearly distraught about in terms of, you know, accidentally killing that young girl, killing that 5-year-old girl. Again, he breaks down multiple times as he's getting his hair braided. And you know, the thing I thought about in during this scene was transformation. You watch other shows and you see somebody cut their hair, or you see somebody uh, get a new hairstyle, and there is a it's kind of like a the character becoming is changing into something else. And I think that, you know, Leon getting his hair braided maybe might lead to that, might be lead to him going in a different direction per se. I mean, we'll see. But this was about motherly love. At this point, you know, he and his real biological mother are clearly on the outs. So you know, this Sissy, you know, came over in Leon's time of need, and really, you know, comforted him as she would her own son. And we'll talk about that more as well. Also, I didn't have it on the scenes, but how Leon was how Franklin caught up with Leon. Leon, of course, was homeless. He did not sleep outside. He went, you know, it was cold outside, even with the house coat. So he went to his Franklin's Alton, Franklin's father, his shelter. Alton, of course, spotted Leon easily. He knows him from, you know, of course, he knows him from Franklin, and those two growing up together. And of course, Alton let Franklin know. So that is how, if you're wondering how Leon was not, I wouldn't say captured, but how Franklin caught up to him. He basically, you know, walked into Franklin's domain, so to speak, by going to his father's shelter. Um, Jerome and Franklin in the car, very interesting scene. They discuss Leon in the car, and this was the point where I think that Franklin decided that he was going to um, not he was going to back Leon and not give Leon up to Manboy or Scully. Jerome says, I mean, Franklin basically says, you know, how is he? And Jerome says, you know, he looks out of it. He looks distraught. He looks like somebody, you know, he looks like that really fucked his head up. And, you know, at that point, you just see Franklin Saint's face. You don't see there's no response. But I really believe at that point that Franklin decided uh, to allow Leon to not either kill Leon or give him up to Manboy or Scully at that point. So they, you know, I don't think Jerome. I think, you know, Jerome's just, you know, listen, Jerome is a straight shooter. I know earlier in the podcast I might have said like Jerome probably wanted Leon, did not want to go to war and wanted probably to give Leon up. But Jerome is being the voice of he is being a kind of a consigliere, so to speak. He is giving Franklin all the options, not leaning towards one way or not, you know, going like, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. He's kind of allowing Franklin to be the guy, so to speak. He's kind of in a way that, I mean, we know Franklin runs the show from that part of the family, but he's given. It seems like Jerome is giving Franklin room, basically giving him the space to make his own decision, and basically saying, "Look, I'll provide you with the information, but ultimately, this is going to be your call." So I felt that way in terms of with Jerome and his you know conversations and his interactions with Leon, not with Leon, but with Franklin over the course of the episode, and that probably Jerome probably saved uh, without knowing it, he probably saved Leon's life. Um, we mentioned Leon and him being distraught over the killing of the girl. He's in an apartment, and this is where FX got us with the okey doke. When you see in the preview, Franklin put a gun to Leon's head. That was a dream or a nightmare, so to speak. That Jerome and Leon has a nightmare about Jerome and Franklin coming in, and there's no bullets in the gun that Jerome gave him. And then you see Franklin, you see Khadija laughing, saying they're gonna kill you, saying you're gonna die, basically. And then Leon wakes up in a cold sweat. So clearly he's clearly having post-traumatic PTS, post-traumatic syndrome from that shooting, and clearly dealing with his own form of trauma with what transpired in the last episode. Manboy, Scully, and Khadija are at the house, and this was a very I love this scene because it told you everything you need to know about this dynamic between these three. Manboy walks in the house and immediately cold of the streets, Scully is supposed to blow Manboy away. Supposed to blow him away. But Manboy, and Manboy is Manboy is a chess player. Manboy basically says, hey, if you kill me, that's not gonna bring back your daughter. He's not gonna bring back your daughter. And Manboy and Scully is of course emotional. Scully basically thinks Manboy came to tell him, I told you so, because apparently Manboy had told Scully, off screen, hey, don't bring your daughter around this shit. Keep your family away from this. And of course, Scully, being as irrational and as crazy as he is, didn't heed to that advice. And what happened. And and a couple of reasons why Scully didn't kill Manboy. Number one, again, this is how smart Manboy is. Even before Manboy walked in that door, he'd already spoken to Khadija. Khadija then basically says, tells Scully, look, he's going to apologize, he's going to fix it. So that Manboy knew going into that house that his life wasn't really in major jeopardy. He knew that going in. He had already planted the seed with Khadija, who, by the way, has a lot of power. Khadija was checking dudes left and right in this episode. She's checking drug kingpins left and right in terms of Manboy and Scully. And she basically, she basically calls them out later on and says, "What are you guys doing? You need to go out there and you need to go out there. I want Leon dead. I want Leon dead." And I'll flush out the Khadija character a little bit more later on in the episode, but a very troubled character, she's kind of resigned to the life that the life that she's in, that she's a part of. So you get Leon, so Scully goes on the hunt for Leon. And Leon, of course, Leon being Leon, he leaves the apartment. He goes to one of his hideouts in the projects where, of course, everybody's going to be looking for him. Like, everybody's going to be looking for him. So he goes into his old spot in the projects, gets some money out of the couch, and then lo and behold, to no one's surprise, Scully spots him along with another one of Scully's soldiers, and they start shooting. Of course, Scully starts shooting at Leon, and luckily for Leon, Franklin and Jerome come and basically save his ass. And Franklin had a funny line, and it says, "Get your dumb ass in the car." So they shoot at Scully. They drive off, and they drive off and save and you know and save Leon's life. Um, Also, you had Gustavo and Teddy discussing Lucia. Now, again, Gustavo, this is another situation where so Gustavo breaks into his sister-in-law's house to see his nephews, of course. Um, and she doesn't know he's in there. He's drunk. She calls the cops. And instead of laying low, instead of being quiet, Gustavo gets loud. The cops, he gets into a wrestling match with the cops, and then he yells, "I'm with the CIA. I'm with the CIA," and which he technically is. And Teddy Mack has to bail out Gustavo once again for doing some dumb shit. And Teddy says, "Look, you can't keep doing this. Basically, you got to get yourself together." And Gustavo says, "Listen, you help me find Lucia, and I'll basically do whatever you say." And of course, we know Lucia was a former. We know Lucia. We haven't seen her since season 2. I believe that they are going to be setting up for Lucia to come back. I don't think that they would mention this if for us to find out that she's dead. I just don't think that this is that type of show. So I expect to see Lucia back at the end of the season and really into season 5. I think there's too much going on in season 4 for her to play a major part for this season. There's just too many other storylines, but I expect her to be back at the end of the season and go into and definitely into season 5. Finally, Franklin refuses to give up Leon to Manboy. Manboy calls Franklin out for being a hypocrite, basically saying, this time last year, I gave up my guy when he fucked up. I expected you to do the same. I thought you was about the business and nothing. I thought you was just about business. That's the one thing I respected about you is when it come to business, you didn't mess around. You didn't never let personal get in the way of business. So he's basically right for the most part in terms of how he reads Franklin. But Franklin, says, I don't get unlike you, I don't give up my peoples. And basically, Manboy says, when sharks see blood, they go after them. And man, it was a brilliant back and forth between the two actors, Damson Idris and Melvin Gregg, who plays Manboy. Manboy, really came at he really came at Franklin in the scene. Says, I remember when you had Compton, when you had the projects, when you had everything. Now, Crenshaw. Now I got Compton, and Scully has. Well, I got Scully has Crenshaw, and the projects are done. And Franklin retorts and says, "I got the plug," which is true. And at that point, I think that Manboy. See, I think that Manboy does not. I don't think Manboy wants to kill Franklin. I really don't. I think it's Scully. See, if Scully would have called with Franklin, Franklin been dead. Scully genuinely wants to kill Franklin. Manboy is smart enough he wants to use Franklin in terms of the business. He really could have killed them. I mean, I know Franklin had 2 other guys with him, but Manboy could have killed Franklin then and there. And Manboy basically says, "Listen, the war will be over if you give up Leon. You will stop. I'll talk to Scully, smooth things out. The war will be over." But Franklin still refuses to give up. Franklin still refuses to give up Leon. So again, we talked about themes about dysfunctional family. Ultimately, when you talk about the dysfunctional families, we're talking about the Franklin Leon dynamic, and also Manboy, Khadija, and Scully. I want to go back to that scene where so Scully and Manboy are in the same house. Okay, and they're at Scully's place, and at this point, Scully's not going to kill him. Scully, matter of fact, Scully is in a place of vulnerability at this point because he really is feeling guilty. Scully knows in his heart of hearts that he's basically responsible for for a dead 5-year-old. He knows this. So Manboy again, Manboy is so smart. He plays does some reverse psychiatry, and you're like, no man, it's not on you. It's not on you. It's not on you. So it gets to a point where again, these are two guys who are supposed to be trying to kill each other. It's to a point where Scully says, "You staying over?" So it just it just goes to show you that despite the chaos, despite the code of the streets, that family at times can win out, and we saw it with Leon and Franklin. Code of the streets. Franklin is supposed to kill Leon. Now, I'm glad that Franklin did not kill Leon. I like the character Leon. Followed him since season 1. He's been a big part of the show. But the code of the street, Leon's supposed to be dead right now. There's no the upside. There's really no upside in keeping Leon alive if you're Franklin, outside of just pure loyalty. We talked about Lucia's return. Like I said, I think that she'll be back by the end of the season. Um, Also, the reporter Irene got some more information in regards to. She got some more information on Teddy Mack in regards to the two guys that he set up that were drug dealers back in season 2. And again, I have to watch season 2. There's a lot. They're pulling a lot of threads from season 2. It's almost like the show is telling you you need to go back and watch season 2. So she spoke to the reporter, spoke to the two Colombian drug dealers, and basically said that they didn't get any type of representation. They um, what's the word I'm looking for? Due process. They didn't get any due process. So keep your eyes on that as she's digging deeper into finding more information, not only information about Franklin, but information about Teddy Mack. And the MVP is Khadija. I thought the actress who played Khadija was the star of this episode. Her performance, again, it's very easy to overact playing a role like this when you lost a child, have a child murdered in front of you. I love how they wrote it. She was despondent, she was tough, she was fierce. She and like a lot of women in this. Think about this show, right? Like a lot of women in this program, she has power. Louis has power. Franklin's mother, Sissy, has power, and she's the latest along that line to where she checked Manboy, she checked Scully. She checked Scully multiple times in this episode. She checked him at the hospital, basically saying, let these people do their job. I'm getting out these clothes and going home. You can do what you do. She checked him at the house, saying, you up here, buddy buddy, playing buddy buddy with Manboy, go go find Leon and kill him. So I'm looking forward to following this character throughout the course of the season. I don't know who this actress is, but she did a tremendous job, and she definitely was the MVP of this episode. And really, really a sad story. When you think about this, right? Scully put her in a position to where she could be shot and her child could be killed. She's so married to the game that she's resigned to that life. Like there's no way out for her. And that is, it is very, again, it's a very sad state of affairs when you think about the character and you think about the despair of that character that she's stuck in between two drug kingpins. I mean, listen, do a little backstory on her and Manboy probably. I'm sure Manboy probably told her to stay away from Scully. I'm sure he did. But why would she listen to you when you're rising to be a drug kingpin? You're in these streets. So of course she's not gonna follow your advice. If it's not like, Manboy's not a lawyer. Not like Manboy went to college or something. So I'm looking forward to following this character and seeing her journey throughout the course of the season. Again, through through the first 5 episodes, I've been completely satisfied with the direction of the season. They are put. I like how they Franklin should have killed Leon. Period. And I like how they are making Franklin are showing Franklin making these mistakes. He's been making a lot of mistakes. Like he's not there yet as far as his journey of fully grown drug kingpin. He's not there yet. He's not Avon Barksdale. He's not Nino Brown. He's not there yet. He's 21. He's still a 21. He's not a kid, but he's still 21, and he's still going through these growing pains. Um, I don't know. There was no Avi this episode, so I expect to see Avi back. He always makes the episodes. He always adds some to the episode when he's in. The actor who plays him does a brilliant job playing that role. So look forward to seeing him back next week, and we'll see what transpires next week. Um, as always, you can find this podcast. I'll put this podcast up before the night is over. It'll be up before midnight. Um, and you can find me on, of course, anywhere where podcasts are available, whether it be iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and of course, you can go to my YouTube channel. Have a great rest of the evening. I'll see you next time.